Commander Vextai stood on the bridge of his warship, watching the scanner display with cold satisfaction. His long, scaled fingers traced across the control panel as he studied the readings. 3 days of hunting had finally paid off. The human cargo ship was right where his intelligence sources said it would be. The ship was called the Ironclad Wanderer. It looked like every other human freight vessel Vextai had seen in the outer star systems. Big, slow, and ugly. The humans built their ships like floating metal boxes with engines stuck on the back. No style, no grace. Just crude metal welded together in the most basic way possible. Vextai-S species. The Zephyrians knew how to build proper ships. Their vessels were sleek and fast, like silver fish swimming through space. Every line was perfect. Every weapon placement was planned for maximum effect. The Zephyrians had been raiding ships in this part of space for over 300 years. They knew their business. "Commander," said his second officer, Kasara. Her voice was smooth and confident. "All ships are in position. The humans have no escape route." Vextai nodded. 12 Zephyrian ships surrounded the human vessel in a perfect sphere. Each ship was positioned to cover any possible escape vector. If the humans tried to run, they would fly straight into Zephyrian weapons. If they tried to fight, they would be outnumbered 12 to 1. The human ship continued on its course toward the jump point. Its engines glowed with that harsh blue light that human technology always produced. Everything about human engineering was loud and rough. They used brute force where other species used elegance. They burned fuel where others conserved energy. They were new to space travel, and it showed in every rivet of their crude ships. Vextai had raided human vessels 6 times before. Each raid had been easy. The humans always tried to talk first. They would beg and plead and offer deals. When that failed, they would try to run. When running failed, they would surrender. It was almost boring how predictable they were. This ship was carrying rare metals from the mining colonies near Kepler Station. The intelligence report was very clear about the cargo manifest. Platinum, iridium, and compressed fusion cores. Enough. Valuable material to keep Vextai's fleet supplied for months. The humans were mining these materials to build more of their ugly cities on dead worlds. They always needed more metal, more fuel, more resources to feed their growing empire. The Zephyrians had different priorities. They took what they needed and left the hard work to others. Why dig metals from asteroid fields when you could simply take them from those foolish enough to do the digging? It was the natural order of things. The strong took from the weak. The smart took from the stupid. Distance to target? Vextai asked. 50,000 kilometers in closing, Kasara replied. They still show no sign of detecting our approach. This was typical. Human sensor technology was basic compared to Zephyrian stealth systems. The Ironclad Wanderer probably thought it was alone in this empty stretch of space. Its crew was likely relaxing, maybe playing their crude human games or eating their awful human food. They had no idea that death was closing in around them. Vextai allowed himself a moment to appreciate the beauty of the trap. His ships had been tracking the human vessel for 3 days, staying just outside sensor range. They had waited for the perfect moment, when the ship was far from any help and close to the jump point where cargo haulers always slowed down to prepare their navigation computers. The Ironclad Wanderer was typical of human merchant ships. It was about 800 meters long and 200 meters wide. Most of that space was cargo holds filled with metal containers. The crew section was small, probably housing no more than 30 humans. The ship had basic defensive shields and maybe a few small weapons for scaring off pirates, but Vextai was not a simple pirate. He commanded a full battle squadron of the Zephyrian Defense Force. His ships carried military-grade weapons and the best technology his people could build. Each of his vessels could destroy the human ship with a single coordinated attack. The only reason he did not simply blow it apart was that destroyed cargo was worthless cargo. "Communications ready, Commander," reported his tactical officer. "Should we broadcast the surrender demand?" "Not yet," Vextai said. Let them get closer to the jump point first. I want them to think they almost escaped. It was a psychological tactic that always worked. When prey thought they were almost safe, they became more cooperative when that safety was suddenly taken away. The humans would be preparing to jump to hyperspace, thinking about reaching their destination safely. Then 12 Zephyrian warships would suddenly appear around them, and their hope would turn to despair. Vextai had been raiding in this sector for 15 years. He knew every trick, every tactic that worked on different species. The Altarians fought like mad animals until they were overwhelmed. The Centauri always tried to buy their way out with credits or information. The Andromedans usually surrendered immediately and begged for mercy. Humans were different from all of them, but not in any way that mattered. They were emotional creatures who made decisions based on feelings rather than logic. They valued individual lives over group survival. They had strange ideas about honor and fairness that made them weak in real combat situations. Commander, Kisara said, her voice carrying a note of surprise. The human ship is changing course. Vextai looked at the display. The ironclad Wanderer had indeed altered its heading slightly. Instead of flying straight toward the jump point, it was now angling toward a nearby asteroid field. The change was small, maybe 5 degrees, but it was definitely intentional. Have they detected us? The tactical officer asked. Impossible. Vextai replied, our stealth systems are active. Even if they had military-grade sensors, they could not penetrate our cloaking fields. But something was making the humans nervous. Perhaps they had intercepted some stray signal from one of his ships. Perhaps their primitive computers had noticed some tiny gravitational anomaly. It did not matter. The trap was already closing. Oh, ships, this is command, Vextai spoke into his communicator. Target is attempting evasive maneuvers. Close to attack formation. Prepare to decloak on my signal. The response came back immediately from all 11 ship commanders. They were ready. They had been ready for hours. The Zephyrian fleet was like a perfectly tuned instrument, each ship playing its part in a deadly symphony of war. The human ship was still trying to reach the asteroid field. Perhaps they thought they could hide among the rocks until help arrived. It was a foolish plan. Vextai's ships could easily follow them into the asteroids and no help was coming. The nearest human patrol was days away from this location. Distance to target now 30,000 kilometers, Kisara reported. They are increasing speed. Vextai smiled, showing his sharp teeth. The humans were starting to panic. Good. Panic. Prey made more mistakes. They would try some desperate maneuver that would only make the capture easier. The ironclad Wanderer was pushing its engines harder now. The blue glow from its thrusters had become brighter and more intense. Human engines always ran hot when they were stressed. It was another sign of their crude technology. They built everything to barely handle normal operations with no safety margins for emergencies. Sir, the communications officer said, we are receiving a transmission from the human vessel. Already? Vextai was surprised. They usually waited until after the ships decloaked to start talking. What are they saying? It appears to be an automated distress signal, Commander. They are broadcasting their position and requesting assistance. This was interesting. The humans were calling for help before they even knew they were being attacked. Either their sensors were better than expected, or they were more paranoid. Than most species, it did not matter. The signal would take hours to reach the nearest human outpost, and the battle would be over in minutes. Should we jam their communications? Kisara asked. No, Vextai decided. Let them waste power on useless signals. It will drain their systems and make them easier to disable. The human ship was now clearly running for the asteroid field. Its course changes were becoming more frequent and more desperate. Whatever had alerted them to danger, they knew they were in serious trouble. But they were still flying straight into the trap. Vextai had positioned 2 of his fastest ships near the asteroid field hours ago. The humans would find more enemies waiting for them instead of safety. It was a classic pincer movement that had worked against dozens of other vessels. 20,000 kilometers, Kisara announced. They are within optimal firing range. All ships, decloak and assume attack formation, Vexthai commanded. Begin jamming their engines and weapons. Prepare to broadcast surrender terms. Space. Around the ironclad Wanderer suddenly filled with silver shapes as 12 Zephyrian warships dropped their stealth fields. The human ship was completely surrounded, caught in a perfect sphere of enemy vessels. Each Zephyrian ship was smaller than the human cargo hauler, but their weapons were far more powerful. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The human ship stopped accelerating and began turning in confused circles as if the crew could not decide which direction to run. Its communications array started broadcasting on multiple frequencies at once, sending out panicked messages in several different human languages. Perfect, Vexthai said with satisfaction. Open a channel to the human vessel. Let us see how quickly they surrender. The main screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of the human ship. It was cramped and poorly lit, with exposed cables and pipes running along the walls. Several humans were visible, all wearing simple work clothes rather than military uniforms. They looked exactly like what they were supposed to be, frightened merchants caught in a trap they could not escape. But there was something in their eyes that Vexthai had not expected to see. Instead of fear or despair, he saw something that looked almost like determination. One of the humans, a female with short brown hair, stepped forward to face the screen. "This is Captain Sarah Chun of the merchant vessel Ironclad Wanderer," she said in clear, calm English. "We are carrying humanitarian supplies to the Kepler colonies. Stand down and let us pass." Vexthai laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through his bridge. Humanitarian supplies. The humans always claimed to be carrying medicine or food for refugees when they were caught, as if anyone would believe that rare metals were humanitarian aid. "I am Commander Vexthai of the Zephyrian Defense Force," he replied, letting his translator convert the words into human speech. "You are surrounded and outgunned. Surrender immediately and prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will result in the destruction of your vessel." The human captain looked at him for a long moment without speaking. There was something strange in her expression, something that did not look like fear or even anger. If Vexthai had to put a name to it, he would have called it disappointment. "I really hoped we could avoid this," Captain Chun said quietly, speaking to someone off-screen rather than to him. "All crew, this is the captain. Battle stations, activate Protocol 7. Vexthai felt a chill run down his spine. Those words did not sound like surrender. They sounded like a declaration of war. The words hung in space like a death sentence. Protocol 7. Commander Vexthai had raided dozens of species across the galaxy, but he had never heard any cargo ship captain use terms like that. Protocols were military language. Merchant vessels did not have battle protocols. Captain Chun turned away from the communication screen to address her crew. Vexthai could see several humans moving with sudden purpose behind her. They were not panicking or crying as he expected. Instead, they moved with the quick, efficient motions of trained soldiers. "What is Protocol 7? Kasara asked quietly from her position at the sensor station. "I do not know," Vexthai admitted, "but it does not sound like surrender." On the human ship's bridge, Captain Chun was giving orders in a calm, clear voice. "Engineering, bring the fusion reactors to full power. Weapons, start the targeting computers. Navigation, plot an escape course through the asteroid field. Medical, prepare for casualties." Vexthai felt his confidence waver slightly. These humans were not acting like frightened merchants. They were acting like experienced warriors preparing for battle. But that was impossible. The intelligence reports were clear. The Ironclad Wanderer was a simple cargo hauler with a civilian crew. "Commander," his tactical officer said, "should we begin jamming their systems?" "Do it," Vexthai ordered. "Disable their engines and weapons, make them helpless." The Zephyrian ships began broadcasting powerful electromagnetic pulses designed to overload human computer systems. It was a standard tactic that worked on most species. Their primitive electronics would shut down, leaving them drifting in space like a dead whale, but the human ship kept moving. Its engines continued to burn at full power, and its communication systems kept working normally. The jamming signals seemed to have no effect at all. Impossible, Kasara breathed. Their systems should be completely offline by now. Maybe human technology is more advanced than we thought, the tactical officer suggested. Vextai shook his head. He had seen human ships torn apart by Zephyrian weapons before. Their technology was crude and primitive. There had to be another explanation. On the main screen, Captain Chun was still giving orders to her crew. She seemed completely calm despite being surrounded by 12 warships. Her voice never rose above normal conversation level, and her hands remained steady as she worked at her control station. All stations report ready, Captain, a male voice said from somewhere off-screen. Very good, Chun replied. Remember, we are not the aggressors here, but we will defend ourselves and our cargo with everything we have. These supplies are needed by the colonies, and we will not let pirates steal them. Vextai opened the communication channel again. Captain Chun, this is your final warning. Surrender now, or we will open fire. You cannot fight 12 ships with one cargo hauler. The human captain looked directly at him through the screen. Her brown eyes were completely steady, showing no fear at all. Commander Vextai, I will make you a counteroffer. Leave now, and no one has to die today. Continue this attack, and you will regret it. The Zephyrian bridge fell silent. No cargo ship captain had ever threatened a Zephyrian battle squadron before. It was either the bravest thing Vextai had ever heard or the most foolish. You cannot be serious, he said. You have one ship. I have 12. You have civilian weapons. I have military-grade plasma cannons. This is not a fight you can win. Captain Chun smiled, but it was not a happy expression. Commander, you are making the same mistake that many others have made. You are judging us by our appearance rather than our capabilities. As she spoke, something strange began happening to the human ship. The ironclad Wanderer started to change shape. Panels along its hull began sliding apart, revealing hidden compartments underneath. What had looked like simple cargo containers were transforming into something completely different. What in the void ... Kesara whispered. The cargo containers were opening like metal flowers. Inside each one was a weapon turret. Not the small defensive guns that merchant ships usually carried, but massive military cannons that looked like they belonged on a battleship. Dozens of them were emerging from concealment all along the ship's hull, but that was not the most shocking transformation. The ship's main hull was changing too. Armor plating was sliding into new positions, creating overlapping protective layers. The simple cargo hauler was becoming a fortress bristling with weapons. Impossible, Vextai said. How did our intelligence miss this? Because we designed it to be missed, Captain Chun replied calmly. The ironclad Wanderer is not just a cargo ship, Commander. She is a Q-ship. A warship disguised as a merchant vessel. The term sent a chill through Vextai's blood. He had heard of Q-ships in historical records. Some species had used them centuries ago as traps for pirates and raiders. But no one had seen an active Q-ship in over 200 years. All Zephyrian vessels, he broadcast on the fleet channel. The target is not what it appears to be. Prepare for immediate attack. Do not let them complete their transformation. But it was already too late. The ironclad Wanderer had finished changing from merchant ship to warship in less than 2 minutes. It now looked like a completely different vessel. Instead of a harmless cargo hauler, it was clearly a military ship designed for one purpose: killing other ships. This is impossible, the tactical officer said. Our sensors showed a civilian vessel. There were no weapon signatures, no military power readings. Humans are clever, Captain Chun said, still visible on the communication screen. We learned a long time ago that the best way to survive is to make our enemies underestimate us. You saw what you expected to see because that is what we wanted you to see. The human ship began moving again, but now it moved differently. Instead of the clumsy flight pattern of a cargo hauler, it moved with the grace and purpose of a warship. Its engines, no longer disguised, produced a much brighter and more powerful thrust signature. How many crew do you actually have? Vextai asked, dreading the answer. Enough, Chun replied. The ironclad wanderer carries a full marine company in addition to her regular crew. We have been hunting pirates in this sector for 3 months. You just made yourselves our primary target. A full marine company meant at least 200 soldiers, not the 30 civilians that intelligence had reported. The humans had been planning this trap for months, waiting for a major pirate fleet to attack them. Vexthai's squadron had walked straight into a carefully prepared ambush. You are still outnumbered 12 to 1, he said, trying to maintain his confidence. Numbers are not everything, Commander, Captain Chun replied. Especially when the enemy is not prepared for what they are about to face. The human ship's weapon turrets were now fully deployed and tracking targets. Vexthai could see dozens of gun barrels pointed at his ships. Each turret was larger than anything a merchant vessel should carry. They looked like the main guns from human battleships. All ships, attack pattern 7, Vexthai ordered. Coordinated strike on the human vessel. Disable their engines first, then their weapons. The Zephyrian fleet began moving into attack formation. There were still 12 ships against 1, coup ship or not. Their combined firepower should be enough to overwhelm any single vessel, no matter how well armed. But as his ships moved into position, Vexthai noticed something disturbing. The human ship was not trying to run anymore. Instead, it was turning to face his fleet directly. Captain Ching was actually seeking combat with 12 warships. Commander, Cassara said, her voice tight. With worry, I am reading massive power buildups from the human vessel. Their weapons are charging the full capacity. Massive. Vexthai asked, Sir, their power output is reading higher than our entire squadron combined. This was impossible. No single ship could generate that much energy. The readings had to be wrong. But even as he watched, the human ship's hull began to glow with heat from the enormous power flowing through its systems. What kind of reactor are they using? The tactical officer asked. Before anyone could answer, Captain Chun's voice came over the communication channel one last time. Commander Vexthai, this is your final chance. Withdraw your fleet now, and we will let you leave alive. Continue this attack, and we will defend ourselves with lethal force. Vexthai looked at his tactical display. 12 Zephyrian warships surrounded one human vessel. His ships were faster, more maneuverable, and equipped with proven weapons. The humans might have surprised him with their disguise, but they were still just one ship against his entire squadron. Negative, Captain Chun, he replied. We did not come this far to be frightened away by human tricks. All ships, open fire. The space between the fleets erupted in light as 12 Zephyrian ships fired simultaneously. Plasma beams and particle cannons sent streams of deadly energy toward the human Q ship. It was enough firepower to destroy a small moon. The energy weapon struck the ironclad wanderer's hull and simply disappeared. The ship's shields absorbed the entire barrage without even flickering. The massive power generators that Cassara had detected were feeding defensive systems that could handle anything the Zephyrians could throw at them. Shields holding at 98%, Captain Chun reported to her crew, her voice still calm. Return fire, all batteries, full spread. Show them what human engineering can really do. The human ship's response was immediate and devastating. Every weapon turret fired at once, sending a wall of projectiles toward the Zephyrian fleet. But these were not energy weapons like the Zephyrians used. They were solid metal projectiles accelerated to incredible speeds. The first salvo struck 3 Zephyrian ships before they could react. The kinetic rounds punched through their shields like they were not even there, tearing massive holes in their hulls. One ship exploded immediately as the projectiles hit its fuel storage tanks. Evasive maneuvers, Vexthai shouted. All ships, scatter formation. But the human ship was already firing again. The turrets rotated with mechanical precision, tracking the fleeing Zephyrian vessels. More solid rounds filled space, each one guided by advanced targeting computers that could predict exactly where each enemy ship would be. How are they doing? This? Kasara asked in horror as another Zephyrian ship took critical damage. Kinetic weapons should not be this accurate at long range. Because they are not just kinetic weapons, Captain Chen's voice came over the open channel. Each projectile has its own guidance system and fusion warhead. We call them smart rounds. They do not miss, and they do not stop until they hit their target. Vexthai watched in growing terror as his perfect ambush turned into a massacre. The humans were not just fighting back, they were winning. Commander Vexthai watched his fleet dying around him, and felt something he had never experienced before in 15 years of raiding, pure terror. 3 of his ships were already dead or dying, and the human vessel showed no signs of slowing. Its relentless attack, the ironclad wanderer moved through space like a living predator. Every few seconds, another group of guided projectiles erupted from its weapon turrets. Each round tracked its target with mechanical determination, adjusting course to follow evasive maneuvers. When they hit, they exploded with the force of small nuclear weapons. Status report, Vexthai demanded, his voice cracking slightly. The blade of vengeance is gone, Kasara reported, her normally steady voice shaking. The Silver Wind has lost main power and is drifting. The Star Hunter reports critical damage to engines and weapons. 3 ships out of 12 destroyed, or disabled in less than 5 minutes. This was not a battle. It was an execution. All remaining ships focus fire on their weapon turrets, Vexthai ordered. If we can disable their guns, we can still win this. His remaining 9 ships concentrated their plasma cannons on the human vessel's weapons. Brilliant beams of energy struck the turrets again and again, but the weapons were protected by the same incredible shields that covered the rest of the ship. The plasma simply dispersed harmlessly across the defensive barriers. Their shields are not weakening, the tactical officer reported. If anything, they seem to be getting stronger. This was impossible. No shield system could maintain full power under sustained fire from 9 warships. The energy requirements alone should have overwhelmed any reactor system. But the human ship kept fighting as if the Zephyrian attacks were nothing more than gentle rain. Captain Chen's voice came over the communication channel again. She still sounded completely calm, as if discussing the weather rather than commanding a ship in mortal combat. All turrets concentrate fire on the command vessels. Take out their leadership first. The human weapons turned toward Vexthai's flagship and 2 other command ships. A storm of guided projectiles filled the space between them. Vexthai felt his ship shake as the rounds impacted their shields. Then the barriers failed, and metal death began tearing through his hull. "Emergency power to shields!" he shouted. "Damage control teams to deck 7. But the human rounds kept coming. They did not fire in simple patterns like normal weapons. Instead, they came in waves designed to overwhelm defensive systems. First, smaller rounds would weaken the shields. Then larger projectiles would punch through the weakened barriers. Finally, the fusion warheads would detonate inside the target ship. It was a carefully planned destruction sequence that showed years of combat experience and tactical thinking. These humans were not lucky amateurs. They were professional soldiers who knew exactly how to kill enemy ships. "Hull breach on deck 7, came the report from damage control. "We have lost life support to sections 12 through 15. Casualties are mounting." Vexthai looked at his tactical display and saw that 2 more of his ships had gone dark. The human vessel was picking them off one by one with methodical precision. In 10 minutes of combat, he had lost 5 ships out of 12. Half his fleet was gone. "Commander," Kasara said quietly, "perhaps we should consider retreat." The word hit Vexthai like a physical blow. Retreat. In 15 years of raiding, he had never retreated from anything. The Zephyrian Defense Force did not run from merchant ships and cargo haulers. But this was no ordinary merchant vessel. "Sir," the communications officer said, "the Star Hunter is requesting permission to withdraw. They have lost main engines and most of their weapons." "Denied," Vexthai snapped. "We do not abandon our squadron mates." But even as he said it, he wondered if staying was just throwing away more lives. The human ship was not fighting like any vessel he had ever encountered. It was fighting like something that had been designed specifically to kill Zephyrian raiders. On the main screen, he could see the ironclad Wanderer continuing its deadly work. The ship moved with surprising speed for something so large. Its engines burned with incredible brightness, providing power for both movement and weapons. Every few seconds, another volley of guided rounds would streak toward his remaining ships. But it was not just the weapons that horrified him. It was the way the humans fought. They showed no mercy, no hesitation, no fear. They targeted the most dangerous ships first, then worked their way down to the weakest. They coordinated their fire to maximize damage and minimize their enemy's ability to respond. Most disturbing of all, they seemed to be enjoying it. Target the Void Reaper next, Captain Chun ordered her crew. Their plasma cannons are still functional. Take out their main turret, then disable their engines. The Void Reaper was one of Vexthai's fastest ships, commanded by his most experienced captain. It immediately began evasive maneuvers, using every trick in the Zephyrian tactical manual. The ship rolled, dove, and twisted through space like a fish avoiding a predator. It made no difference. The human-guided rounds adjusted their courses to match every evasive move. They struck the Void Reaper's main weapon turret with surgical precision, destroying it completely. Then they moved on to the engine section, methodically tearing apart the propulsion systems. "This is Captain Serco of the Void Reaper," came a panicked voice over the fleet channel. "We are dead in space. Engines destroyed, weapons offline, requesting immediate assistance." But what assistance could Vexthai provide? His own ship was barely surviving the human onslaught. Every few minutes, more guided rounds would slam into his hull, each impact bringing them closer to total destruction. "Commander," Cassara said, "urgently, I am detecting something new from the human vessel." "What now?" Vexthai asked, dreading the answer. "They are launching small craft. Dozens of them." On the tactical display, Vexthai saw points of light separating from the ironclad Wanderer. At first, he thought they were escape pods. Perhaps the humans were finally ready to abandon their ship. But the small craft began moving toward his fleet with obvious hostile intent. "Those are not escape pods," the tactical officer said. "They appear to be ... missiles, very large missiles. Each missile was the size of a small fighter craft. They moved under their own power, accelerating toward the Zephyrian ships with single-minded purpose. Unlike the guided rounds, these weapons were large enough to carry massive warheads. "Point defense systems, engage the incoming missiles," Vexthai ordered. His remaining ships began firing their defensive weapons at the approaching missiles. Laser cannons and particle beams lanced out to intercept the human weapons. Several missiles exploded under the concentrated fire, but many more kept coming. The first missile reached the crippled Star Hunter. The weapon struck the Zephyrian ship's hull and detonated with the force of a small star. The entire vessel simply vanished in a ball of nuclear fire. Where there had been a warship, now there was only expanding gas and debris. "What kind of weapons are those?" Cassara whispered. More missiles found their targets. The Serpent's Fang took direct hits and broke apart like a child's toy. The Night Stalker managed to destroy 3 missiles with point defense fire, but the 4th one got through and tore off the ship's entire bow section. In less than 20 minutes of combat, Vexthai had lost 8 ships out of 12. His perfect squadron was being systematically destroyed by a single human vessel that should have been an easy target. "All ships, emergency retreat," he finally ordered, the words tasting like poison in his mouth. "Jump to hyperspace immediately." "Sir," the tactical officer said, "the Star Drinker and the Void Spear cannot jump." Their hyperspace drives were damaged. Vexthai looked at the tactical display and saw that 2 of his remaining ships were indeed unable to escape. They were trapped in normal space with a human warship that showed no signs of mercy. "This is Captain Chun," came the human voice over the communication channel. "To any Zephyrian vessels attempting to retreat, you have 30 seconds to surrender before we destroy you. This is your only warning, 30 seconds. The humans were giving them 30 seconds to decide between death and surrender. It was more mercy than Vextai had ever shown to his own victims, but it felt like the ultimate humiliation. "Commander," came Captain Roltheus' voice from the Star Drinker, "we cannot escape. Our hyperspace drive is completely destroyed." Vextai closed his eyes for a moment. 2 of his ships, 2 crews, dozens of Zephyrian warriors who had followed him into this disaster. "Surrender," he said quietly. "Sir?" Kasara asked. I said. "Surrender," Vextai shouted. "Signal the Star Drinker and Void Spear to power down their weapons and prepare to be boarded. Save what lives we can." It was the hardest decision he had ever made, but watching his entire fleet die for nothing would be even harder. On the main screen, the ironclad Wanderer continued to drift through the debris field of destroyed Zephyrian ships. Its weapons were still tracking his remaining vessels, ready to fire at any sign of resistance. The human ship looked completely undamaged despite 20 minutes of concentrated fire from 12 warships. "This is Captain Chun," the human voice said. "We accept your surrender. Power down all weapons and prepare to be boarded. Any attempt to resist will result in immediate destruction." Vextai gave the orders that ended his career and his pride. His remaining ships shut down their weapons and waited for the humans to claim their victory. But as he watched the human boarding craft launch from the ironclad Wanderer, one thought kept running through his mind. This had not been a battle between pirates and merchants. This had been a carefully planned hunt, and the Zephyrians had been the prey from the very beginning. The humans had not just fought back. They had been waiting for this fight. They had wanted it. And now Vextai understood with crystal clarity that his species had made a terrible mistake. They had awakened, something that the galaxy was not prepared to face. The human boarding shuttles moved through space like predatory birds approaching wounded prey. Commander Vextai watched them close in on his crippled ships and felt the weight of complete defeat pressing down on his shoulders. In 25 years of military service, he had never imagined surrendering to a single enemy vessel, but the ironclad Wanderer was no ordinary ship. Even now, with the battle essentially over, its weapon turrets continued to track every movement of the surviving Zephyrian vessels. The message was clear. Any attempt at resistance would result in immediate annihilation. "Commander," Kasara said quietly, "the human boarding shuttles are requesting docking permission from the Star Drinker and Void Spear." "Granted," Vextai replied. The words tasted like ash in his mouth. "Order both ships to cooperate fully with the human marines." Through his ship's sensors, he watched the boarding process begin. The human shuttles were larger than typical boarding craft, and they moved with mechanical precision. Each one carried what appeared to be a full squad of soldiers in advanced combat armor. The first shuttle docked with the Star Drinker within minutes. Reports began coming in over the fleet communication channel. The human marines were moving through the ship with professional efficiency, securing key areas and rounding up the Zephyrian crew. "This is Captain Rolthi," came a defeated voice from the Star Drinker. "The humans have taken control of the bridge. They are ... they are treating our wounded." This surprised Vextai. In his experience, most species killed or enslaved captured enemies. The idea of treating enemy wounded was foreign to Zephyrian military doctrine. It was seen as a waste of resources that could be better used elsewhere. "What are their demands?" Vextai asked. "They want a complete crew manifest and cargo inventory," Rolthi replied. "They are also asking about other Zephyrian operations in this sector. They seem very interested in our base locations." Of course they were. The humans were not just defending themselves from this one attack. They were gathering intelligence for future operations against Zephyrian raiders. This single battle was part of a larger campaign that Captain Chun's voice came over the main communication channel. "Commander Vextai, this is Captain Chun. I need to speak with you directly." Vextai straightened his uniform and activated the video link. Captain Chun appeared on his main screen, standing on what was clearly the bridge of the ironclad Wanderer. Behind her, he could see human crew members working at their stations with calm efficiency. "What do you want?" he asked. "I I want to make something very clear to you, Chun replied. This was not a random encounter. We have been hunting your squadron specifically for 3 months. We know about your base on asteroid K-47. We know about your supply depot near the Centauri border. We know about your contacts in the black market. Trade networks. Each piece of information hit Vextai like a physical blow. That intelligence was supposed to be classified at the highest levels. How could the humans possibly know such details about Zephyrian operations? How? He asked. Because we have been watching and learning, Chun said. Every ship you have raided. In the past year, every cargo manifest you have stolen, every communication you have sent, we've been tracking all of it. Building a complete picture of your organization. This was impossible. The Zephyrians used encrypted communication systems and hidden supply routes. Their security protocols were supposed to be unbreakable. Yet somehow the humans had penetrated their entire network. You see, Commander, Chun continued, you made one critical mistake. You assume that because humans are new to this sector, we are naive about how it works. You thought we would be easy victims who would never fight back. Effectively, your species has only been in space for a few hundred years, Vextai protested. We have been raiders for millennia, and that overconfidence is exactly why you lost, Chun replied. You kept using the same tactics, the same routes, the same methods that worked against other species. You never adapted to face human capabilities. On his tactical display, Vextai could see more human ships dropping out of hyperspace around the battle zone. 3 heavy cruisers and a carrier group, all bearing the insignia of the Human Defense Force. They had been waiting nearby, ready to provide support if needed. A trap within a trap, he said quietly. Exactly, Chun confirmed. The ironclad Wanderer was bait to draw out your entire squadron. But we were prepared to handle much larger forces if necessary. This entire sector is now under human protection. The implications were staggering. The humans had not just defeated his squadron. They had claimed an entire region of space. Any Zephyrian raider who entered this area would face the same fate as his fleet. What happens to my crews? Vextai asked. That depends on them, Chun replied. Those who cooperate with our investigation will be treated as prisoners of war under human military law. They will be held until the end of hostilities and then returned to Zephyrian space. Those who resist or attempt to escape will be dealt with more harshly. Human military law. Vextai had heard rumors about human treatment of prisoners, but he had dismissed them as propaganda. Most species either killed captured enemies or sold them into slavery. The idea of actually caring for prisoners and eventually releasing them seemed absurdly wasteful. And what about me? He asked. You will be transferred to a human prison facility for detailed interrogation, Chun said. We need everything you know about Zephyrian raiding operations, supply networks, and command structures. The more you cooperate, the better your treatment. Another human shuttle was approaching his flagship. Vextai could see armed Marines visible through the craft's windows. They wore powered armor that made them look like mechanical giants. Each Marine carried weapons that appeared far more advanced than standard Zephyrian small arms. Prepare for boarding, Chun ordered. Do not resist, and no one will be hurt unnecessarily. The shuttle docked with a solid clang that echoed through the ship's hull. Within moments, Vextai could hear the sound of cutting tools as the humans breached his ship's airlock. His own crew had already powered down all weapons and defensive systems. There was no point in fighting anymore. The first human Marine to enter the bridge was enormous. The powered armor made him look like a walking tank. His helmet displayed a transparent faceplate that revealed human features, but there was nothing soft or weak about this soldier's expression. I am Sergeant Rodriguez, the Marine announced in accented Zephyrian. This ship is now under human control. All crew members will remain calm and follow instructions exactly. Anyone who attempts to resist will be subdued by force. More Marines spread through the bridge, taking control of key systems. They moved with the practiced efficiency of soldiers who had done this many times before. Each Marine knew exactly what to do and where to go without needing detailed orders. "Commander Vextai," Sergeant Rodriguez said, "you will come with me. Captain Chun wants to speak with you in person." Vextai looked around his bridge one last time. This ship had been his home for 8 years. He had commanded successful raids from this very spot, defeating dozens of enemy vessels. Now it was just another prize in a human victory collection. "Very well," he said quietly. The transfer to the Ironclad Wanderer took 15 minutes. Vextai was escorted through corridors that looked nothing like the crude human engineering he had expected. Everything was clean, efficient, and obviously designed by people who understood both form and function. The ship's interior was larger than it had appeared from outside. Corridors branched in multiple directions, leading to areas that had been completely hidden during the initial sensor scans. The humans had not just disguised their weapons, they had concealed the true size and capability of their entire vessel. They passed through what was clearly a Marine barracks area. Hundreds of human soldiers were visible, all wearing advanced combat gear. Many were cleaning weapons or maintaining equipment. Others were studying tactical displays that showed detailed maps of Zephyrian territory. "How many Marines do you actually carry?" Vextai asked Sergeant Rodriguez. "Enough," the Marine replied with what might have been humor. They reached the ship's conference room, where Captain Chung was waiting. She had removed her helmet, revealing a face that was younger than Vextai had expected, but her eyes held the hard experience of someone who had seen many battles. "Please sit down," she said, gesturing to a chair across from her. Vextai sat, feeling strange to be treated as a guest rather than a prisoner. On the table between them was a datapad displaying star charts of the local sector. Red markers indicated the locations of destroyed or captured Zephyrian ships. "Your squadron was not the first we have defeated," Chun said, following his gaze to the display. "Over the past 6 months, we have eliminated 17 Zephyrian raiding groups. Your operation was simply the largest, 17 groups." Vextai felt sick to his stomach. The humans had been conducting a systematic campaign against his people, and the Zephyrian High Command apparently knew nothing about it. "How many ships have you destroyed?" he asked. 143 vessels of various sizes," Chun replied matter-of-factly. "We have also captured or killed over 4,000 Zephyrian personnel. Your raiding operations in this sector are effectively finished." The numbers were devastating. In 6 months, the humans had destroyed more Zephyrian ships than had been lost in the previous 10 years of normal operations. And they had done it so quietly that the Zephyrian military leadership was completely unaware of the losses. "Your people will come looking for my squadron," Vextai said. "When we fail to report in, they will send search parties." "We are counting on it," Chin replied with a cold smile. "Every ship they send gives us another opportunity to capture Zephyrian personnel and gather intelligence. Eventually, your commanders will realize that this sector has become a death trap for raiders." The conference room door opened, and another human officer entered. This one wore the insignia of a fleet admiral, a rank that indicated command authority over multiple battle groups. "Admiral Morrison," Chun said, standing to attention. "At ease, Captain," the admiral replied. "How did our latest operation proceed?" "Complete success, sir. We eliminated 8 enemy vessels and captured 4 more, along with their crews." Intelligence. "Gathering is proceeding according to plan." Admiral Morrison looked at Vextai with the expression of someone examining an interesting but dangerous animal. "So this is the famous Commander Vextai. Your reputation precedes you." "What reputation?" Vextai asked. "The Butcher of Kepler Station," Morrison replied. "The raid where you killed 300 civilians because they tried to resist your demands. Did you think we would forget something like that?" Vextai felt a chill run down his spine. That raid had been conducted over 2 years ago in a completely different sector. How could the humans possibly know about it? "We remember everything," Morrison continued. "Every civilian you have killed, every ship you have destroyed, every family you have torn apart. We have been building detailed files on every Zephyrian raider in this part of the galaxy. The Admiral moved to the star chart display and pointed to various systems. Your people have been operating in human space for 3 years. You have stolen billions of credits worth of cargo and killed thousands of innocent people. You thought we were too weak and scattered to respond effectively. But you were wrong, Chun added. Humans do not forget, and we do not forgive crimes against civilians. Every raider who has killed human colonists will be hunted down and brought to justice. Morrison activated a control on the display, and the star chart zoomed out to show a much larger area. Hundreds of red markers appeared, scattered across dozens of star systems. This is the scope of our operation, he said. We are not just defending one sector. We are systematically eliminating piracy throughout this entire region of space. Your squadron was just one target among many. Vexed eyes stared at the display in horror. The humans were conducting military operations across a volume of space that contained dozens of inhabited systems. They were not just responding to raids, they were waging a full-scale war against piracy itself. Impossible, he whispered. You do not have enough ships? You still do not understand, Morrison said. We are not using regular military vessels for most of these operations. Ships like the ironclad Wanderer are just the visible part of our response. We have hundreds of Q ships operating throughout this region, all disguised as civilian vessels. The implications hit Vextai like a physical blow. Every merchant ship, every cargo hauler, every seemingly defenseless civilian vessel could be a hidden warship waiting to spring a trap. The humans had turned their entire merchant marine into a massive intelligence and military network. Your raiding days are over, Chun said quietly. And soon, your people will learn the same lesson. That you learned today, humans are not prey. We are predators, and we have been hunting you from the moment you made us your enemies. 6 months later, Commander Vextai sat in a clean, well-lit cell aboard the human prison station orbiting Kepler Prime. Through the transparent aluminum window, he could see merchant ships coming and going from the busy trade hub below. Some of them were real cargo haulers. Others, he now knew, were Q ships disguised as civilian vessels. The humans had kept their promise about prisoner treatment. His cell was comfortable, with decent food and access to educational materials. He had been allowed to send messages to his family on the Zephyrian homeworld. Most surprisingly, he had been given medical treatment for injuries, sustained during the battle. But comfort could not ease the weight of what he had learned during his months of interrogation. The human intelligence officers had shown him reports, star charts, and communication intercepts that painted a picture of total Zephyrian defeat in this sector. In the 6 months since his capture, 47 more Zephyrian raiding groups had been destroyed or captured. The humans had eliminated over 300 pirate vessels of various sizes. The Zephyrian presence in human space had been completely eradicated. Even worse, the humans were now taking the fight to Zephyrian territory. Their Q ships had begun, appearing in previously safe systems, hunting down raiders before they could launch attacks. The Zephyrian military was scrambling to respond to a threat they still did not fully understand. Good morning, Commander, said Dr. Sarah Kim, the human psychologist who conducted his regular interviews. She entered the cell carrying her usual datapad and coffee cup. Dr. Kim, Vextai replied politely. Over the months, he had developed a grudging respect for the human woman. She was intelligent, professional, and genuinely interested in understanding Zephyrian culture and motivations. I have some news that might interest you, she said, settling into her usual chair. The Zephyrian government has officially requested peace negotiations with the Human Federation. Vextai felt his blood turn cold. Peace negotiations? Apparently your military leadership has finally realized the scope of what they are facing. Dr. Kim continued. They have lost over 600 ships in the past year. More importantly, they have lost the ability to operate safely in this entire region of space. 600 ships. The number was staggering. In less than a year, the humans had destroyed more Zephyrian vessels than had been lost in the previous century of raiding operations. The economic and military impact on his people would be devastating. What are the human terms? He asked. Complete withdrawal from all human-controlled systems, Dr. Kim replied. Payment of reparations for damages caused by raiding operations. Extradition of war criminals responsible for attacks on civilian targets. And establishment of a permanent monitoring system to prevent future raids. The terms were harsh but not unreasonable. The humans were demanding an end to piracy, not the destruction of the Zephyrian species. It was more mercy than most raiders would have received from other governments. Will your people accept these terms? Vextai asked. That depends on your government, Dr. Kim said. But I can tell you that Admiral Morrison is prepared to escalate operations significantly if the raids continue. The Q-ship program was just the beginning of our response. Vextai had learned enough about human military capabilities to find this threat deeply disturbing. If the Q-ships were considered a limited response, what would an escalated campaign look like? What would escalation mean? He asked. Dr. Kim activated her datapad and showed him a star chart. Red zones marked areas where human military forces were operating. The zones covered most of the border region between human and Zephyrian space. Phase 2 of our anti-piracy campaign, she said. Direct strikes against Zephyrian military bases and supply depots. We have identified over 40 installations that support raiding operations. All of them are now legitimate military targets. The chart showed strike plans that would cripple the Zephyrian raiding infrastructure permanently. The humans had obviously been planning this campaign for months, building detailed intelligence on every aspect of Zephyrian military operations. How did you learn so much about our defenses? Vextai asked. From prisoners like yourself, Dr. Kim replied matter-of-factly. Over the past year, we have captured nearly 8,000 Zephyrian personnel. Most of them have been very cooperative with our intelligence-gathering efforts. 8,000 prisoners. The number represented a significant portion of the total Zephyrian raiding force. No wonder his people were requesting peace negotiations. They were facing the complete collapse of their military capability in this sector. A soft chime indicated that their interview time was ending. Dr. Kim gathered her materials and prepared to leave. Commander, she said, pausing at the cell door, I want you to understand something. This was not about revenge or conquest. It was about protection. Your people forced us to respond by attacking our civilians and stealing our resources. I understand, Vextai replied. And he did understand, perhaps better than any other Zephyrian alive. After Dr. Kim left, Vextai returned to the window. A new ship was approaching the station, a human, heavy cruiser bearing the markings of the home fleet. Its arrival meant that high-ranking officers were coming to the station, probably for the peace negotiations. He thought about Captain Chun and the crew of the ironclad Wanderer. In the months since his capture, he had learned more about that remarkable ship and its mission. The vessel had been specifically designed to hunt pirates with advanced weapons and sensors hidden behind a civilian disguise, but more than the technology, it was the crew that had impressed him. They had fought with a determination and skill that matched any military force he had encountered. They had shown both mercy to prisoners and ruthless efficiency against enemies. Most importantly, they had demonstrated that humans were capable of long-term planning and strategic thinking that rivaled any species in the galaxy. The door to his cell opened again, and a human guard entered. Commander Vextai, you have been requested to attend the peace negotiations as a technical advisor. Will you accept? This was unexpected. Why would your people want my advice? Because you have more experience fighting humans than any other surviving Zephyrian officer, the guard replied. Your insights might help prevent future conflicts. Vextai considered the offer. Participating in the negotiations would mean helping to end the war that had destroyed his career and his fleet. But it might also save thousands of lives on both sides. I accept, he said. 2 hours later, he found himself in a conference room aboard the human command station. Across the table sat a delegation of Zephyrian officials, including High Admiral Vexen, the supreme commander of all raiding operations. The human delegation was led by Admiral Morrison, the same officer who had questioned him months earlier. Captain Chun was also present, still wearing the uniform of a merchant marine officer despite her obvious military background. "Gentlemen," Admiral Morrison began, "we are here to discuss the terms for ending hostilities between our peoples. But first, I want to make something very clear. This is not a negotiation between equals. This is a discussion of surrender terms." High Admiral Vexen bristled at the blunt language. "The Zephyrian Defense Force has not surrendered. We are here to discuss a mutual ceasefire." "Admiral," Morrison replied calmly, "in the past 12 months you have lost over 600 ships and 8,000 personnel. Your raiding operations in this sector have been completely eliminated. Your supply bases are under constant attack. Your remaining forces are afraid to leave port. If that is not defeat, what would you call it?" The human admiral activated a holographic display that showed the current tactical situation. Red markers indicated destroyed or captured Zephyrian vessels scattered across dozens of star systems. The scope of the destruction was undeniable. "Furthermore," Morrison continued, "we have evidence linking your forces to attacks on civilian targets that constitute war crimes under galactic law. 300 civilians died in the Kepler station raid alone. Thousands more have been killed or enslaved during other operations." He gestured toward Vextai. "Commander Vextai has provided detailed information about these attacks during his interrogation. He has confirmed that targeting civilians was standard operating procedure for many raiding groups." High Admiral Vexen looked at Vextai with obvious anger. "You cooperated with the enemy?" "I told them the truth," Vextai replied quietly. "The same truth that you need to hear now. We cannot win this war. The humans are too strong, too smart, and too determined. Every day we continue fighting, more of our people die for nothing." Captain Chane spoke for the first time during the meeting. "Admiral Vexen, I want you to understand something about human psychology. We do not forget crimes against our civilians. We do not forgive attacks on innocent people. We will continue hunting your raiders until every single one is captured or destroyed." She stood and walked to the holographic display, pointing to various systems. "We currently have over 200 Q-ships operating in this region. Each one is a trap waiting for your raiders. Every merchant convoy is protected by hidden warships. Every trade route is monitored by our intelligence network. But more than that," she continued, "we are now taking the fight to your territory. Our special operations teams are already gathering intelligence on your homeworld. We know the locations of your shipyards, your command centers, your political leadership." The threat was clear. The humans were not just defending themselves anymore, they were preparing to strike at the heart of Zephyrian civilization if the raids continued. "What are your terms?" High Admiral Vexen asked, his voice defeated. Admiral Morrison placed a datapad on the table. "Complete withdrawal from all human systems within 30 days. Payment of 50 billion credits in reparations over 10 years. Extradition of all personnel responsible for attacks on civilian targets. Dismantling of all raiding infrastructure. And acceptance of permanent human monitoring stations in your territory." The terms were harsh, but Vextai recognized them as the price of military defeat. His people had gambled everything on their ability to prey on human weakness. They had lost that gamble completely. "And if we refuse?" Vexen asked. "Then we will destroy every Zephyrian military installation within 500 light years of human space," Morrison replied. "We have already identified the targets and prepared the strike plans. The choice is yours." High Admiral Vexen looked around the table at his advisors. Vextai could see the defeat in their eyes. They all knew that continued resistance meant the destruction of their civilization. "We accept your terms," Vexon said finally. 3 months later, Vextai stood on the observation deck of a human transport ship, watching his homeworld grow larger through the viewport. He was being repatriated along with other prisoners as part of the peace agreement. The war was over. The Zephyrian raiding fleets had been disbanded. The captured ships and bases had been turned over to human authorities. His people were learning to survive without the wealth stolen from other species. But the galaxy had learned something more important. Humanity had announced its presence as a major power, one that would protect its citizens and interests with overwhelming force when necessary. The age of easy raids on human shipping was over forever. As the transport ship entered the atmosphere of his homeworld, Vexthai thought about Captain Chun and her crew. They had taught the galaxy a lesson that would not be forgotten. Humans might appear peaceful and naive, but when cornered and threatened, they fought like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. They fought like predators who refused to become prey.